from the previous Sabbath, we learned that the tithes is the 10% of what we give God of our gross income. But then we have to give offerings. In the time of Israelites, they were giving offerings, the thanks offerings or maybe sin offerings. And these offerings comes from the remaining 90%. And it is when we give offering to God, it is a way that we express our gratitude to Him, and it is not that we are trying to appease God. Yeah. And also it is a test of trust, and God is trying to instill in us an act of selflessness. Yeah.
And we also learned about ways of worship, and there were 4 of them. Who can recall? You don't? Obed? You don't remember? You don't read your lessons. Huh? There were 4 exact ways of.
Four ways of worship,
Yeah.
but I cannot list them. Cannot list them in order.
Okay, you can just tell them. I guess there were 4.
I see them, but I cannot.
Just say.
I think the teacher can help us.
Okay, the teacher can help us. No, apana. Okay, I recall there was something like worship, preaching, prayers, and typing.
Yes.
Yeah. So one cannot do without the other. So it works conjointly. So actually now, this week we're still continuing with mastering, and our topic of discussion today is dealing with debt. Actually, it's something that we all know, we have experienced. Actually, it's truth. We want to experience day to day here and there, and it's actually part of our lives, majorly. Even if in the current situation right now in our country, we're actually living in debt, and it's something that people have actually embraced as a lifestyle, as a way of living, and as a way of to actually go on with life. So who can tell us more? I want this class to be more of interactive. So if I point on you, you said you were Mylon, Obed, and Wesley, right? Yeah. You are? Judy, sawa. June. Okay. So what is debt? Have you ever experienced this debt? Have you ever been in debt? You know sometimes when let's say perhaps you have some cash, then simu tu ikilia tu hivi kidogo, you're like, it's Nani who is calling. Hii ni pesa tu. Ama when you just receive a message, it is Nani who is calling. So tell us more about it.
Should I say the Urim is pointing at me always. But let me. I think it is true. The debt has become, in a sense, part of people's lifestyle. I think with how we live, from the smallest thing, unaingia tu kwa simu au kwa jahazi, we have been enslaved to that so much that if you don't have money and you want to be to be online, unaokoa tu. We have been enslaved, fuliza everywhere, so that it is normal to be in debt. It is dangerous because of that normalcy. But in a sense, we have embraced it and been enslaved in it, so that even when people hear that we have a debt or have a debt, they think it's the same way as breathing. It's unavoidable. But I think this lesson is it's good. It's coming in the right time, and it's important to be taught on financial management and the need for being careful as we hold our masters well. Yes, thank you.
Amen. So actually, is debt really a sin? Yeah? Because actually it has been there from the Bible during the Israelites' time, right? It is here with us. It's going to be in the near future. Is it really a sin to us? And what attitude towards the resources God has entrusted us do we have? Actually, when you give back God what belongs to Him, I think He'll just bless us. There's that promise in the Bible. And for how long have we been in this slavery? So actually this week you're going to learn the reasons why we have debts, how to deal with them, the debt problems, how the debt problems comes along, and we are also being given hope how to follow the godly counsel according to the debts we have, then how to get out of debts once you're already there, once you're already entrapped within it. Then we'll talk about also the surety and get rich quickly scheme, and then the terms and limits of borrowing points. So actually, we now go straight to the key text, which was Proverbs 22, verse 7. And it says, the rich rules over the poor, and the borrower servant to the lender. You see, there's that sense of being, how can I like you are in a bondage. Yeah, you're in slavery. You have talked of Fuliza. Kidogo, there was this, what is it? Hustler Fund. And there's that, they are going to review it this February to increase the limits. So you actually find that when I ask you your net worth right now, you will tell me, perhaps maybe you have only 100 shillings in your M-Pesa right now. And then, Fuliza, how much do you have in your money? You also even top up that Fuliza amount. You say like, I have one, perhaps maybe your Fuliza limit is 500. You say it's, niko na 6 kwa simu. Like, it's actually part of us. When you, like, there's no point utasema you are broke, because already there is Mshwari, there is Fuliza, there is KCB M-Pesa. Yeah, there is Tala. So you actually total all the limits of those banks. Alafu usema, niko na pesa. You say that you already have money. You see, actually it's part of us. And why do you think that we have debt problems? Why do we encounter debt problems in our current life situations right now? Any child? Actually, hizi video tunapitia, right? Hata sahi tu maybe perhaps unasema akiniokolea tu so tu. I just need so. Yani nitakurudisha tu jioni. Nikule tu maybe breakfast, lunch, you see? Immediately after that one, umepigia person A, let's say maybe umepigia Obed. Ikifika lunch, maybe perhaps you don't go for this at LT. You call another person. Haki niko tu hapa kwa mess. I only need 30 shillings. Rice beans right now ni how much? 33 ama 50? Rice beans kwa mess. 50 hapo. Niko tu 50, nimeshikika hapa mahali. 50 tu. So umepigia this one. So at the end of the day, you find that you have this one to meet, ulimwambia utamlipa at 6. Huyu mwingine unamwambia kesho at 10. You see, that chain continues on and on. So why do we experience debt problems actually?
I think one of the reasons we experience debt is greediness. Mm-hmm. We want to live a life that is not according to our means. You see things and you admire them and you want to do impulse buying and such things. That's just one of the reasons. Yeah, there are other reasons.
One of them, we have greediness. In a sense that you have maybe pale Instagram, you have seen that Air Force, the latest one, and you want actually to match within that limit, or perhaps maybe. Actually, the main urge behind that greediness is trying to live with not within your means. You have seen a certain girl with a certain, maybe perhaps this hairstyle imetokea recent, you want to have it. Actually, you don't have that money to sustain that hairstyle, but you actually just to be within the form, yeah, to be within the gap of that thing that is happening within fashion, perhaps, let's say. Or let's say maybe bags in school. I'll just use what we experience day to day here in life. Maybe umeenda kwa keja ya nani. You have seen that system. You have seen that system, and alikwambia he purchased it at maybe Kilimall. You go and see at Kilimall, unaona it's this certain amount. You actually don't have the money. Unapiga maybe, I don't know how you go about it, but at the end of the day, you get into debt. Okay, you acquire that system, yes. But is it really necessary at that moment? Is it really necessary? No, it's not. Because it's out of greed. It leads you to debts. That's actually now trying to live not within your means, And the main problem also behind this greediness we experience is that we try to admire people's life from the outside. Another trial, another reason why we get into debt problems. Wesley?
Sometimes you may get into debts because of maybe financial instability, or maybe you are lacking something. Then when you can borrow from someone else.
Financial instability. In what sense, you know? Sometimes maybe tu ni ideas zile za kama like, for example, that greed. See, yeah, it talks about money, because you don't have the money to purchase that system at that point. Yeah.
But sometimes it can be genuine. Maybe your parent has delayed to send you some money, or maybe you are expecting some income from somewhere. But then at that time you don't have it, so you'll have to borrow from someone else.
Yeah. So that there is that part of sincere, like umekosa kabisa. From the lesson, that one is great. At personal misfortune. Perhaps maybe you are ill. Maybe your health insurance haifanyi it has no money inside. Like that misfortune, maybe you are just born in extreme poverty back then, hapo in your home state, hapo. Like umekosa completely. How many have experienced that? Maybe you can share an experience or one or two. An experience hapa tu kama comrade. Umekosa kabisa. Yeah. Who can share an experience of maybe how he got to a debt, how he managed, and how God, brought you back? When you umesema it's normal.
Maybe definition of debt problem inaweza vary, but under Higher Education Loan Board, HELB. So you see, for people who genuinely take HELB because they really need it for school, I think that is a misfortune, because no one would want a debt if they can avoid it. But then again, there are those in campus, their parents are actually paying for their school fees and everything, but when apply for HELB, and then they go to the coast. So I feel like a personal experience for me would be HELB. Like that is a loan I didn't want, but niko hapo ndani.
Yeah, that's a good experience actually. Most of our parents, and I presume you applied for it without your parents' consent, right? Okay, some of us actually, we apply. Okay, personally, I have a yangu ilikata kukuja, but haikuwa hata ni apply. So, okay, for me, my parents can be able to pay they can finance my staying here in JUJA. Perhaps maybe pale host nini kwa keja, and as well as school inside. But there was this time I wanted to apply. Okay, ika apply, nikafika pale kwa disbursement. So kidogo, I'm like waiting for that messages. Like my friend, hey Val, mimi nishapata help. Kamba mi yangu bado iko kwa disbursement process. So I'm trying to ask my friends who get nini help. They tell me, yo, disbursement inamaanisha nini? Ati so iko in process kwa bank. So I'm like, okay. Then it reached a point I received a message from help. Ati, unfortunately, we will not be able to finance the help due to financial constraints. I think it was last year when they were reading the budget. So it was really heartbreaking, but let's get vibaya. So we get into debt also because of ignorance, perhaps also. Actually, that one may be for help. Ignorance. We ignore. No? We are both educated, but we lack the principle of money management. No? You might be having this 100 shillings. There's somebody it can sustain a whole week. There's this 1,000 shillings. It can sustain you perhaps a whole week, We have different... Okay, we can say that life around school is kind of expensive, but pale home, that 100 shillings can... Okay, let's use a simple budget. Or maybe we can use it in this term. You already have stock in the house. Sindio? We have this stock in the house, lile gunia mahindi utoka nayo kwa nyumba. So it's maybe that 10 shillings ya kununua tu skuma, in that sense. But we are different. So there is that person who can survive with 1,000 shillings for a week, or 1,000 shillings for a month. It depends now. And what's God deal for his children regarding debts? How can we put it? From the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28. Uh-huh. 28. 28, verse 1 to 2, and then 12. 28, 1 to 2. 28:1, and it shall come to pass, if thou shalt diligently unto the voice of God thy God, to observe and to do all the commandments which I command thee this day, God thy God will set you thee on high above all nations of earth. 2. And all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Verse 12. The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasures, the heaven to give the rain unto the land in his season, and to bless all the works of thine hands, and thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. So we actually see that God himself is actually giving us hope, you know. Only if we trust in him, only if you obey his commandments. You see, it's just direct. Obey his commandments, then you'll flow of blessings. Actually, you're already entrusted. And also, we see that in 1 Timothy, in regards to that, in 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 6 to 9, it talks about being content with the little you have, you know. The little you have, the 100 shillings you have, the 1,000. Don't see the lifestyle of those people in social media and stuff. Be content with the little things, the little blessings that God has given you. And I think you can survive with this life, you know. It talks about godliness. Godliness with contentment is great gain. It really is. Just be content with what you have. Any additional before I go to the next part? Following godly counsel. So after now knowing why we get to debt problems, we now need to follow godly counsel. And at one point back there when you were young, you've always dreamt of kushinda lotto, these lottery things, kushinda. Then you buy a big car, you live in a big house. You have always dreamt of being rich, finishing school. Am I audible enough? To the other side? Mnanisikia? Can you get me? Okay. We have always dreamt of being rich, getting married to a rich man, finishing school. You know, that Cinderella lifestyle. When they shule umalize, you finish, you get married you graduate, you be a doctor, you be an engineer, you get rich, you get married to a rich man, you have beautiful kids, you know. And it's not bad to dream, by the way. But the thing is, having unrealistic dreams is very destructive, you know. You should have, hata kama kuna kudream, let your dreams be realistic at the same time. Because it will actually distract you in a sense that you want that system, you don't have any cash. It will tempt you to go and steal. It will give you that urge of not being, you know, that inner peace of mind. You won't have it actually. So when you talk about following godly counsel, we are human beings. We have that urge of material things, allure to earthly riches and title. Everybody needs that title. No one, hakuna mtu mwenye hataki that big title here on earth. And we have been promised divine power to stay faithful to what we have is right. And I guess we'll read from the book of. I want us to read the book of Matthew 6:24 and 1 John 2:15. Then we strike a difference between those two verses. Nani amepata? Okay.
Yeah, Matthew chapter 6, verse 24, it says, "No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon."
So when you see the temptation of wealth and material possession has led to run up to many different sources where we can get to, or we can get that money very easily. From the book of Matthew chapter 6:24, it talks about serving two masters at a time. You cannot serve two masters at a time. Currently, you are reading. I'll just use a simple example. You are reading and also having maybe perhaps a full-time job. Can you really manage? We can talk about a part-time job at some point, but a full-time job, it's very tricky. Here, God tells us we cannot serve Him and the same as money, material possession, earthly things. Actually, having a lot of money, is it really bad? Kukuwa a lot of money, is it really bad? Because actually, yeah, it's debatable in the sense that Solomon himself also had, so we can gauge in terms of wealth. Solomon had wealth, though he had a bad ending due to some personal decisions he made. Also, Job was rich, Moses also, there were different ways people are rich back then. And now the main thing here, it talks about having a lot of money is not bad. But what attitude, what dedication do we have with this wealth to our Christ? How can you relate with it? Having a lot of money is not bad. We actually work hard towards it. Actually, we're here in school to fight poverty. Have a good lifestyle. But is it really bad? It's not bad. And so the main question is, what's your dedication? What's your attitude towards this wealth that you have been entrusted with Christ? It cannot be perhaps money. Perhaps you have been entrusted with the truth of the gospel. Are you really ready to share it with your person, with your friends, with your classmates? So that's the thing. That's the main discussion here. We can also read about 1 John chapter 2:15. When amepata, he can.
Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of
the love of the Father is not in him. So you see that in this text, it talks about that thing that, I don't know how to put it, that lust of the flesh, that desire of the earthly things, God has given us the counsel through the Bible and prophetic gifts that will lead us to financial freedom. If we only shut down these, these flesh things, these personal desires, the lust of the eye. Actually, and that's what led to, back then in Garden of Eden, the lust of the eye, it's what led to sin, the desire, which is not sincere, And actually, when you look at the book of Psalms, we see that David himself talks about his experience we ought to have. We have to have a total mastery of our flesh desires. And it actually leads us to a greater height, I believe so. And from the book of Psalms 50:14-15, what attitude do we ought to live with? What attitude do you ought to live like? What does it mean to pay your vows? At one point or another, we have been baptized. And before baptism, there are those, 13 vows that you ought to agree to so that you can get into the waters. Sorry. And out of the 13 baptismal vows, we have the 9th vow, which says that it talks about believing in church organization. And while you believe in church organization, you need to support God's mission in a sense that you have to tithe and give offering. And we, obviously, almost all of us, actually, we all say yes. But now when it comes back to reality now, in life it's a balance between expectation and reality. We are expected to now follow that thing. But how often do we tithe our money? How often do we give offering to Christ? And, from that book, a promise to those who offer thanksgiving to God are faithfully paying their vows to Christ. The vow we are talking about here, how often, how sincere, how cheerfully do you give back what belongs to Christ? And any addition? This is not a lecture, it's a discussion. And actually, God has given us his counsel to follow him. And a question rises up here. Who can strike a difference between working hard for good living versus making idol of wealth stroke money? a difference between working hard so that you can have a good lifestyle versus idolizing money. Who can try? Okay, I can repeat the question. Strike a difference between working hard so that you can have a good lifestyle, a smooth, soft life, versus idolizing money or wealth. Rasugu? But
Maybe you can pardon the question.
the question is that there is this sense of we getting here to school, working very hard so that we can have a bright future, have a good lifestyle there in front, versus idolizing our money stroke wealth. It's kind of tricky.
Okay, I will answer that question from two perspectives. When you asked that question, two scenarios in the Bible struck my mind. The first one was the incident where Jesus asks this man to sell all his wealth and give it to the poor and follow him. And also, the other one is the instance of Ananias and Sapphira. You see, Ananias and Sapphira, simply what these guys did is they were idolizing money. First of all, before they agreed to give their land in benefit of the less fortunate in the society, it was theirs, Sindo. It was theirs. They were having a good life. They were living it. But now they decided to give it to God, not because they were generous or kind, but because they wanted a recognition in the church of God, because they are giving. Now, looking at Ananias and Sapphira, I was reading a certain book called Stewardship. These guys were well off. Like, that piece of land that they were giving, aingefanya, they go angry or they lack in their family. But what they did, these guys walisema watoze land wapeane just to gain recognition in church. And that was idolizing money. And you can see what happens afterwards. Sindo? See, we all know the story. The story of the instance of Jesus telling this man to sell his wealth, give it to the poor and follow him. Okay, I really can't call that idolizing money, because this was a question of how this was a question of faith in Christ, because this guy was rich, Sindio, trusting God. So I think it's how much you trust God with the things you have. It's how much you realize that all the things you have belong to God. If we all realize that, I think the thing about idolizing money haitakuwa.
Good child. Okay, yeah.
Just to reiterate the question, the difference between working hard for good life and idolizing will help you get a good life without compromising the laws and the oracles of the Lord. But when now you get to a point where in your pursuit of education, in your pursuit of a good business, you now trample up, then that becomes idolizing the good life and the money. So the difference for me would be staying within the oracles of the Lord and trampling upon them in pursuit for that good life.
Thank you for that. So now, in regards to that, a question now comes up. What is our priority with wealth that we have been entrusted with God? Now that we can now talk about money versus God's blessings. Let's look at the book of Proverbs 23, verses 4 to 5. We see a wise man saying under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. And we can see that from that text, we see that do not wear yourself out to get rich. Do not trust your own cleverness. are gone, for they will surely sprout like wings and fly off the sky like an eagle. Like the story of Job. In one day, pap, si kila kitu iliisha. So like that, who can expound more on that? It's so powerful, like in a sense that ukicheza tu hivi, like it's just like within microseconds isha. Job, we have a good example, Job, in the Bible. But can we really say that he had, where's that text? He had really entrusted, do not wear yourself to get rich and do not trust your, did he really, that is Proverbs chapter 23 verses 4 and 5. Did he really trust his cleverness? Not really, right? But he trust his cleverness? Not really, right? But it's like a good example to see that within an instant, God can just take away all you have. If you really, if you really have your all idea, your all, everything in that. You see that if you are wealthy and work hard to get there, don't let it be your focus. Let your mind be the mind of Christ, Just like Job, he knew, he had that trust in God, that even though the trials are there is that hope for life. And now, after now knowing this, how can we now get out of debts once we are there? Out of debts. How can we now get out of debts? Will you find any at that certain point when you had nylon?
Okay. Okay, yeah. So I've been in debt. January was not good. My January was not good, even from the beginning. I remember last year I was doing a certain business and it didn't go that well. So I ended up with debt, which flowed into this year. And while I was trying to think, because at that time I had rent, nilikuwa nafaa kulipa. Sikuwa nimelipa stima for like, I don't know how many months. Bill ilikuwa imepile up. Then I also had that debt. Then also wakati mama alini-release from home, walini-release na transport pekee. So I arrived home, nimefika JUJA, niko na transport and the food that I came with from home, of which ingeisha ingekuwa difficult. Then I realized that help iliingia, nikalipa hizo madeni, but help in itself is still another debt. So it's difficult.
It's very difficult, we can say. So it was kind of your bondage. Like you don't have that freedom. How many of us this experience? They have obits. Like you don't want to associate with him at that point.
Yeah,
there is that fear of being vulnerable to those people you have money.
Yeah.
And you also feel that they can go saying that hey, see those instances. So, sometimes we get crazy-minded when we are desperate. Really get crazy-minded when we are desperate, and those that desperate times now calls for desperate measures. You see, now that sasa kuna unashindwa venye usije uliingia kwa KCB ukapata loan ukika your mama guarantor. After 30 days, they have started calling your guarantors. You see, no unashangaa. See, but I was sending you money. Now those are the desperate times, and I guess that almost all of us we have had those moments. Now, another question: how many times have we been tempted to go wrong pathway due to financial freedom? How many times? How many times have we been tempted making those wrong decisions? An experience? Who can share his experience? You can. Okay. And you try to.
Okay, hello, happy Sabbath. The thing about money, the Bible is clear, money is the root of all evils.
I guess you can just try.
Okay. So they say money is the root of all evils. So I've told to share an experience. where a temptation came when you're broke. So this Friday, I was really broke. I remember I had 4 bob in my M-Pesa. It's on a Friday. So, and I remember I had no food in the house. So I was like, what am I going to do? I remember I had spent money recklessly that week. So I can't start calling my dad for more because he knows the money he sent was enough to last me through the week. Sindio or something. Sindio, that period. So niko kwa nyumba, I'm planning on how to come to Vespers. And this friend of mine calls me, huwa tuna train na yeye kucheza guitar. So he calls me and he says, hey Sam, nimeitwa gig fulani hapa kwa club fulani hapa karibu na Ruiru. Can you come and play for me? Alafu I sing and they pay well. You know, at such a moment, it's very likely that you're going to take that offer because you need money, sindio? So sometimes it just takes your mom's prayers or your friend's prayers to get you out of such situations. So yeah, that was my experience. Money is a very bad topic.
Thank you. Okay, so there's this thing. At one point, you have been heartbroken. You have broken someone's heart. We opt to cry. Sindio, we cry. And we get blood vision. But how many times do we make wrong decision during that blood vision? How many times? Umegongwa heartbreak pale. Umelia. Actually, at that moment, you don't see you don't have that a clear vision. But in that situation, now try to put yourself. How many times, how often do you make good decisions? Maybe you can go and look for a rebound girl. You can go drinking. Like you look for alleviating ways to postpone that thing. How many times? And we get an inspiration from the Desires Ages, that page 31 to 31. It says, worry is blind and cannot discern the future. But Jesus sees the end from the beginning. And in every difficulty, he has his way to bring relief. Like God has endless ways. Like, why don't you one day, when you have that thing that is disturbing you, why can't you just trust him? You know, at some point, okay, kuinama there is it. There was this time I didn't have money completely in my M-Pesa. I'm like, okay, fine. For the first time. Like, okay, it's really tough for a person who likes it. It's really tough. Like, you feel like a partner. And from nowhere, I was just playing with my phone. I guess it was during Vespers. One of these, actually, it was this year. I know I was in class. Like, it was in the morning, and Dad only sends me money in the evening, obviously. Kwa nyumba. Like, my limit has been 0 since then. 0. And that day, it comes up, a limit of 500. I was like, hey, like, I really didn't have any means. Sikuwa na chochote. And you can't really confront your friends. So now what we can learn from this, you see that when we put God first, he'll take care of everything that troubles us. Tithing vow. Tithe your vows, the money. Last week we had talked about that. Give cheerfully, you know. Service to others, you know. God will never leave you nor forsake you. So we see that step 1, we can declare a complete stop on additional debts. Perhaps you have that 10 bob and a knee. Don't go again, then start. I had called you for lunch. I now call for that one. No. Just try to be a survivor at one point. Who can give me another, how to get out of debts? Another point, yeah, sure.
I may not be able to give you how to get out of debt, definitely.
Uh-huh.
But I think there's an instance last year around the long holiday. I was aiming that this year I will be self-dependent. I don't be supported by parents. So, in the pursuit of that,
You can rise.
well, I'll project my voice. In pursuing self-independence, I found I lost $100, And I was like, I tried to find money, but in trying to find money, I lost money, so I became broker than before. It is at that point I made a decision that I will just trust God. When I'm in campus, God knows I want this. I'm going to give him all my plans. And the same is after coming from long holiday, God has led me in a very perfect way that I've not been stressing my mom so much, but also I've not been wanting. But I said all these dubious means of earning, I don't want them after seeing that I lost more. So I think it is, in a sense, to leave debts again, we need to realize the position of God in our life. You say God can provide. He promises that us like that. And when wakati unacheza na fuliza limit, you can also kneel with your two knees and play with God, and He can provide for us also. I think that can be also a means. It's a means.
Yeah, it's a means. Amen.
And also, the lesson writer tells us that when God blesses you more, use it to pay your debts and also save. Sindio, I think there's something that comes with having money that makes you spend. You know, I was talking with my sister some time back during the holiday, and she told me that she used to work as a waitress in these restaurants in Nairobi. And then she tells me that guys book for reservation. They book a reservation around 3K. They come a smokies around 500. So there's something that comes with having money that makes you spend it more. So the lesson writer tells us that when God blesses you, if you want to get out of debt, when God blesses you, use it to pay your debts and also save, sindio? Because ukikwanga na pesa unaonanga haiwezi isha, like hata kama ni kidogo aje iwezi isha. When you have money unaonanga hii pesa ni mingi, hata kama niko na deni mali, you don't consider paying that debt first. So when God blesses you, think of your debts first before you spend.
Yeah, it's trying to making a covenant with Christ that when He blesses you, you first pay off the debts. Yeah. The last point. I think you have all read your lessons. Who can give us? The last one. On how to get out of debt. So you have talked about making a covenant with God, then declaring a stop complete on having an additional debt. So we have the last point. Well, I'm sorry I came in late, but you can project.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy day.
I might have come in late, so I don't know if you guys had tackled. There's this method that has been tackled. I don't know what day specifically it was, but okay, yeah, it is Tuesday. Yeah, so not Ellen White. This lesson writer talks about almost segmenting your debts. You know, talking about having the most ile yenye ni kubwa sana, and then unaenda hadi ile yenye ndogo sana. So you settle those ones that ziko huko chini kabisa before that, and that will give you enough money to settle the ones that are more than the ones that you're yenye hapo chini. But I think what stood out for me in as far as debt is concerned is living within your means. Yeah. Just live within your means, below your means as much as possible, because that will enable you not to see the need to even to copper the money or to ask for more money. As my friend has said there, whenever you have money, you will find use for it. Pesa upata matumizi. And the moment you understand what your means are and how much you're able to afford and to what extent, then you'll be able to avoid this debts and all that. Yeah. But me is a question.
Okay, you're sure?
Yeah, because my friends tell me that loans enable one to kujenga nyumba, kununua shamba and all that. And reading through the lesson, I was just waiting for it to be tackled. But
Which part?
Kuomba loans, like 20M, kujenga nyumba and all that. And I was just waiting for it to be tackled. So I don't know, it wasn't quite tackled, I guess, to my own perspective. So that would be the question I'll pose to you and the class.
You've heard the question?
Oh, my question is, my parents tell me that having loans, seeking loans from banks and government institutions are the quickest way to make development. Like building a flat, building a home, building a house. Because if you wait to build a house with your own salary, you wait forever. If you wait to make reliable developments with your own salary, you wait forever. So my question was, and still is, what is the place of these loans in as far as God is concerned and us and Him making us from debt?
You've heard the question? Now, I try to give response of 1 minute. Okay. Give her the microphone. And try to be eloquent enough. Happy day. Happy Sabbath.
Lesson teachers, you have 10 minutes. Wind up.
Is it? Oh. This is what is being. Okay. Happy Sabbath again. Happy day. So as I was saying, acquiring a loan is not sin, because essentially, as you've said, it enables you to do things as fast as you can, like building a home. Building a home is where many people acquire loans for. Okay, some people acquire loan to get cars, but I don't get the sense in it. But God, in his wise counsel, in his godly counsel, anataka ikwe the last option for us. Like, it should be the last option. And even if we seek to acquire loans, let us be wise. Let us acquire one with interest rate that we can manage. Something that you can easily get out of. Not acquiring something so big that you wallow in so much debt because you're also developing something on the side. So when all is said and done, it should be the last thing we seek. But even if we seek it because of unavoidable circumstances, acquire the best. Just use your wisdom, research, do your research, and get the best possible rates that you can get, because you can actually get the best possible rate that you can manage. Yeah. Is there anybody who wants to have a response on that question? The question was having loans in order to invest. Because there's this saying, okay, it's something that is there. My mother is a teacher. Teachers usually live on loans. Sindio? It's something, it's there. You actually live on loans. Hakuna vile survive. Okay, now, what's God's perspective in that line? Should you really acquire those loans so that you can invest and get more money? Is it really godly? Any other trial? And also in that regard, surety and consigning. At some point, it reaches a time that you have to be a guarantor of somebody whom you're really sure he or she doesn't have that money at that moment. But umena tu kumshikilia, you can't to have a loan under his name. Now, what's God's perspective in that line? A trial? Mayo?
I'll give my own perspective.
Right.
Happy Sabbath, church.
Happy day.
A happy day. My thoughts concerning us getting loans for the case of Orengi and raise the funds to repay the owner of the lender. So the question, the loan, and again, if you're getting get loans to either us or have little. And as to add on Sheila, if you let it be the last option to get into debt, there's some things like us young people we can do at the moment. like if you can do some savings, say in a circle, and then it should give you like a better, say, interest. You shouldn't put people as guarantors later in time. So there's some things we can do right now so that by the time we think about building, we'll be having a baseline or we won't struggle much at that time.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. It's now room for now comments and questions. I guess, has it been well taken? Yeah. Any other person? On the same. Talking on that same point, you talked about topping on the money. Now, is having a help without your parents' consent right? Is having help loan, without your parents' consent right? In a sense that your father or your mother can finance your well staying here in JUJA, but you still go ahead, still get that loan help without his or her consent. Is it really right to suit your personal gains? Myla? There is and then Manza left them.
From your parents or people who are elder than you. So I'd say principally it's not right.
Yeah, without your parents' consent, right?
Yes, for those continuing, please, we can wind up.
What is the answer? Okay. Who is going to pay at the end of it? It's me.
Yeah, it's you.
And, okay, we all know that a loan should be taken if you will use it on the right way. Like help, if it's for your academic, if you use it for the academic, it's right. So taking help in the first place, if you are the one going to pay it, it's very right. Yeah. It's very right. And it's very right. Okay, it's very right in two things. If you are the one using it and
but
going to pay
it without your parents' consent.
No. Now, my second point comes in that what will you use it for? Yeah. Using it for buying clothes, wearing luku, no, that's wrong. Yeah.
Okay, now we can have him. Share the mic with me.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy day.
First, I will support him. Taking help is not bad.
It's not bad.
First, you can't acquire help without going through some processes. One is guarantors. They have to be your people who sign on it. So that one, you are not taking it without their consent. They know you take it. And actually, there's a age that reaches that your parent won't support you. In any, there's a age, unanunuliwa clothes with your parent. You are not. Actually, there are things your parent won't do for you now at this age. And you can't be, there's just some guilt that come along with it. You can't be borrowing your mom to buy a vest. So there are things, actually, you need some financial assistance to do them. So what comes along with it, and help you'll pay it. It's not your mom who will pay it. After getting work, it will be taken, a direct debit to the loan board. Inachukuliwa tu without even without your consent. It's taken. So I think if you know you need help, take it.
Take it.
Apply it well, and then something called all these things need financial literacy, consignment, or being someone's guarantor. If you know you can pay it and it's not an abnormal loan, I don't think it's right to refuse as a Christian either. You just accept, and you know if this person can pay it. I can't take 2 million and I take it to be my guarantee. I know I'll not pay it. So just be wise, have some financial literacy, and it all will be well.
There, give up. The last to her.
Happy Sabbath.
Happy day.
Happy day.
Happy Sabbath.
Okay, so I think about taking loans, the most important question to answer before you take a loan is why.
Why?
Yeah, so that, of course, if you can't afford a vest, and help loan provides the money for the vest, where you feel ashamed to ask your parents, I believe that it is okay and it is permitted to do this, because eventually you will pay the loan. Yeah, but if it is motivated by, things like enjoyment and, just wanting to spoil yourself and greed, then it is not okay in the sight of God.
Thank you for those who are finished.
So that's all I
The
can
rest,
say.
please, you can wind up.
Okay, thank you. So now, now the greatest lesson is that despite we have those debts, despite we have it all, we are still greatly indebted. We still have that. We still owe Christ our lives. That's the greatest lesson of all. We still owe Christ our lives. We still owe Christ to bring more people into church. And that's the main drive that we should have in regards to paying our debts to Christ. Okay? So I guess you'll pray for us as we end.